Ads. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Karen.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that. So I'm just going to share my screen. So feel free to chip in throughout this, particularly people who are running Google Ads and have specific questions as we're going along. It's quite hard to pitch a presentation on something like Google Ads, which is, as you know, quite a complicated platform, to a group, some of whom know something about ads, some of whom don't know anything at all. So probably this is going to be too basic for some of you and too much for others, but I will do my best. And if you want to dive into any detail, then just shout. So yeah, Ethos, really quickly. I set up Ethos. I've got a corporate background. I was at British Airways. I was at Virgin for many years. And I knew that it was possible to buy Google Ads that worked. When I was at British Airways, we did, huge amounts of revenue from them. When I went freelance and started working with smaller businesses, I realized pretty quickly that most small businesses lose money with Google Ads, almost universally. It's depressingly true. And I was doing a lot of freelance work for other agencies, and I also realized that people were being sold Google Ads who shouldn't be running Google Ads, either because of the sector they were in, or their budgets, or lots of different factors. So I set up Ethos. We call ourselves the ethical PPC agency. We only work with people that we think we can make money for. And we are honest to the point of it not being in our own interest, to be honest. So I will tell a client, sorry, even though we've spent 3 months working with you on this account, I don't think this is the right thing for you to do moving forwards. You should do Facebook ads, whatever. So we are kind of honest to a fault. That's what we do. Yeah, we like to be kind of the people within the industry that do that, because there are an awful lot of sharks out there. So that includes sessions like this, which I run because I want people to know how the Google platform works and how not to get ripped off by it. So I'm going to dive straight in terms of the different types of Google Ads. Everyone's seen this, the typical sales funnel, right? So you throw people in the top when they just have awareness of your brand, and you want to drive them through to actually taking action. Google Ads work brilliantly at the bottom of the funnel. So I'll come on and explain what all of these different types of ads are, but fundamentally, if you're running an e-commerce brand, if you're selling stuff online, you can run shopping ads. Search ads, anyone can run. They work for all types of businesses. They're the kind of ads that we all think of when we talk about Google Ads, and I'll show you examples of each of these in a second. Remarketing ads, just when you remarket to someone who's been to your website before, so great for getting people back to your website. They all work really well at the bottom of the funnel, and then there are some tools that work at the top of the funnel as well. So Google doesn't just own google.co.uk or .com. Google owns YouTube, so obviously video is massive for advertising. Google owns Gmail and also a massive network of display placements around the internet. So if you've ever shopped for something online, you've been to a clothes shop and you've looked at a particular top, and everywhere you go, that stalks you around the internet. Those are display ads, and those are also run through Google's platform. So Google has a massive reach, and Google Ads is this huge machine that you can use to pull levers across the whole funnel, if you like. So really quickly, running through the different types. Shopping ads, if you search for a particular product, these will pop up at the top, generally on desktop. They'll show a pack shot of the product, a description, a price, and where you can buy it from. Those are shopping ads. They will show down the side also on desktop. At mobile, they're at the top and you can swipe along. Absolutely where you should be putting your energy if you're selling stuff and things. And there are lots of rules around how, what type of shopping campaigns to work, which we can cover off in more detail if you want to go into more on that. Then you've got the search ads, which are the traditional Google ads. They've been around forever. They'll have a little ad icon at the top. If you haven't got any shopping ads, they'll appear at the top. You can have 4 at the top, 3 at the bottom of the page. And these are keyword driven. So if someone types in, for example, in this instance, florist for events, and you happen to be a florist that deals with events, then you want your ad to pop up near the top. And those work for all businesses, not just e-commerce, even if you're selling services or something else. Display ads, we just talked about the ones that follow you
Erin,
around.
sorry, may I interrupt for a moment? I just wanted to ask, are shopping ads not also keyword driven, or are they something different?
There's something different, and I'll come on and talk about that in a sec, Vanessa. Yeah, they're driven through the merchant center, which is a different bit of the Google ecosystem. Display ads, they can either be designed ads, literally as you would design an ad that went into a newspaper. You can design digital ads that fit different spaces, and they can be shown across Google's portfolio of sites on the internet. Or they can be AI generated nowadays and mix headlines and images to fit all of the different spaces. And then video ads, the ones that show pre-roll. So before you watch something on YouTube, they can interrupt YouTube ads, they can show at the end. There are also spots around different websites where you can show video. So increasingly video is massive for driving top of the funnel awareness of your product. So I've geared this more towards e-commerce because Ollie had told me in advance that a lot of you were selling a particular product, whether that's Vanessa with your Morello cherry concentrate, is that right? Or the hair care brand that you've got, Candile. So it's when you're selling a product, which is, rather than a service, so you're not trying to get people to fill in forms and pick up the phone, you're actually trying to get someone to stick something in a cart. This is generally best practice. So start with shopping ads. They always convert best. You always get the biggest return on investment from shopping ads generally. Dynamic search ads, if you've got a branded product, which is the same as other branded products on the market, or you've got a website with great SEO, dynamic search ads are the way to go, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. They're a new AI-driven type of search ad. Then you've got your standard search ads, which are the keyword-driven ads that we all know about. Most people try first. I'll come on to talk about those. Display and video, and then I've thrown in at the end Microsoft ads, which is the only other platform we work on. Microsoft ads are a great way of getting incremental traffic. So Google will get you around 70% of the market, the search engine market. Microsoft around 15%, and then there's some bits and pieces around the edges. If you're targeting North America, Microsoft will have as much as 25%. So it can be a great source of revenue as well, because so few people are on there, relatively speaking. So I'll talk about that a bit at the end if there's time. So I'll start actually with search ads, because this is where most people kind of think when they think of Google ads. So this is one of our clients who sell wide fitting shoes for people with diabetes or foot problems, whatever. And what you're doing with standard search ads is you're saying to Google, I want to target this group of keywords, and whenever someone types something into Google that's relevant to me, I want my ad to show. And this is where most people tend to start, and where Google tries to kind of push you. For e-commerce, if you've got good brand awareness, you might want to be running them on your brand name, as this client is here. So if there are people looking specifically for you, you need to watch out that you don't have competitors advertising on your brand name and popping up top of the listings, which you're perfectly allowed to do. You can equally do that the other way around. You can advertise on your competitor's brand name. Can't mention their name in your ad, but say, for example, Jay, someone had another type of spiced rum, and you knew they were the market leader, and lots of people were looking for them. You can put their keywords, their brand name in your account and show your ad top of the pile, which can be a great way of stealing other people's traffic. The way that these standard search ads work, as I said, you choose keywords, and Google matches your keywords to search terms, which are what people type into Google. And a lot of people don't realize those two things are different. People think that whatever someone types into Google, that's what you're going to have your ad shown for. And that is not the case. It used to be to a greater extent, but Google has really kind of played around with the system in recent years for Google's advantage, so Google can make more money. And nowadays, terms are not matched as exactly as they used to be. So just to give you an example on this particular client that I was talking to the other day, so there's a company called Bro, so they do leadership training. That's what they tell you they do. So they're a lead generation client rather than e-commerce. They could have the keyword leadership training in their account. There's a ton of people that do leadership training, and it can mean all sorts of things. You know, you've got to think about the search intent behind what someone is thinking when they are typing something into Google. And that is the most important thing. You've got to be absolutely forensic around what is this person actually looking for. So when you drill down into what people are actually looking for, is it agile leader training? You know, they work with the agile model. Is it agile leadership training online? Even better, because you know, that describes really precisely what they do. So with search ads, you need to get down to the real, you know, what is it you do? But there is a caveat on this, because the moment you go too narrow, Google will say, there's not enough people looking for that thing. There's not enough people bidding. I can't make money out of that, so I won't show your ads. So you have to have at least 10 people a month searching on your keyword phrases for Google to even put you into the auction. And this is where the skill comes in. It's a balance between going narrow enough that you get the right people and wide enough that there's enough people looking. And it's an interesting thing to kind of figure out. There is a ton of data available. There's a keyword planner inside Google. So for this instance, we could have a look and see how many searches a month there are. Now, Agile Leadership Training Online, only 10 people looking a month in the UK. I can't just put one keyword in my account, because 10 people, 1 in 10 clicks, I might get 1 click a month, right? There's not enough people looking on that really specific keyword. Should be in my account, but actually I might have to go right up to this more generic level of Agile for Leaders to get the volume of people that I need to my website to hit my conversion targets. And Google will also tell you how much people are paying if there's enough traffic, which can give you an idea of the range of the bids that you need to make to get into the auctions. Is this making sense to people? I'm hoping I'm not diving too much into the deep end too quickly.
No, this is good.
So what you need to think about, and this is the other element, if you've got a search term which doesn't have a lot of traffic, so, you know, say, for example, you said it is actually just Agile Leadership Training Online that I want, you have another option, which is instead of matching exactly to that keyword, you widen your reach and you give Google more scope. Now, Google's recently announced this dark green layer, broad match modifying type, catchily named, is being phased out in July. So I need to update this slide. Basically, you've got 3 types of keyword matching. Exact match used to be exact, which meant that if someone typed Agile Leadership Training Online, your ad would only show if someone typed that exact thing. Exact match is not exact anymore. Google can take liberties. They might swap keywords that they believe to mean the same sort of thing, which is where you have to go into your account and actually look at your search terms. You have to look at what people are actually typing to find you, rather than just the keywords that you put in your account. Phrase match, Google can take more, you know, can be far more flexible, and broad match, never use it. Google will just take the mickey. So to give you a funny example, I audited an account the other day for an estate agent in London, posh estate agent, you know, people suited and booted, Chelsea, and they'd been advertising on the broad match rent in Chelsea. And when you looked at their search terms, they'd been paying for all manner of nonsense. I mean, a lot of, you know, car hire rental in Chelsea, that sort of thing. They'd paid for, where can I rent a parrot for a video shoot in Chelsea? I mean, like the most random stuff you can think of. They'd paid for, where can I hire a rent boy in Chelsea? You know, how bad is that in terms of brand fit? Their ad was popping up when someone was typing that in, right? So be really careful with broad match. It's the default keyword match type. Google will choose that for you if you don't change it. The second kind of, if you like, defense that you have when you set up Google Ads is your ads. So a lot of people will write ads to try and get as many people to click as possible. That's actually the wrong way to write ads. You need to write ads to get the right people to click and to put off the people that you don't want. Because remember, you pay per click. So you don't want people clicking by mistake. So take, for example, a client that does upscale weddings, right? So they only work with people that have got at least 10 grand, preferably 20, 30 grand. They could write an ad like, you know, that talks about, so say they put a keyword in their account, wedding planner, because a lot of people do just search on wedding planner when they're looking for a wedding planner. They don't tell you what their budget is. It'd be lovely if everyone typed wedding planner for expensive weddings, but nobody does, right? So if they just advertise on wedding planner and they reflect that back, you might get loads and loads of people who are actually looking for just online wedding planning tools like this ad. So what you actually need is something which is around, okay, we do luxury weddings. You've got to have a minimum budget. I want to put people off who've got 4 or 5 grand to spend. So your ads need to work really hard to get rid of the people that you don't want. People often ask which search ads are shown in the best position. There's an auction, runs in an instant whenever someone types something into Google. There's an algorithm behind the scenes which we don't know the detail of. Your bid comes into account, levels of competition. Quality score is like a credit rating for your keywords. It goes from 1 to 10. If you've got a quality score of 10 on a keyword, you will pay half as much as if you've got a quality score of 5. If you've got a quality score of 1, your ad won't show, probably. And there's a whole bunch of stuff behind quality score, like landing page quality, ad relevance, a whole bunch of things. The context of the search, you know, Google knows what people have been searching for before and after. So there's a massive amount of factors that go in behind this. And this is where the skill comes in managing the Google Ads platform, that you can try and optimize for all of these different things.
Karen, sorry to jump in. Can I just ask, can you get hold of your own quality score? Is that something Google owns?
Yeah.
You can. Perfect.
So you go to your keywords tab and you add a column. There's like a little icon to add a column, and quality scores under there. And you can also see the components of quality score. That said, don't get fixated on it, because give that, say for example, that wedding example, that ad would have a poor click-through rate score, because we're deliberately putting people off to get a click-through rate of 2%, not 20%. So sometimes you want your quality score to be bad, which is where, again, the skill comes in Google Ads, because what's a good click-through rate? There is no answer to that. I have accounts where I'm managing the click-through rate low, and I have accounts where I'm managing it high. And even within accounts, I manage things at different places according to the campaign. So that's a whistle stop through search. I'm kind of conscious of time. Dynamic search ads are in many ways a lot easier, and they work really well on e-commerce accounts. If you've got a massive catalog, I don't know if any of you guys are in that position yet, but say you had 1,000 products that you're selling, you've got great website structure so that Google can read the tags to find out what things are, what the titles are, what the descriptions are. Then dynamic search ads can work really well. So in this shoe client example, if someone's looking for a particular model of shoe, you don't want to be setting up search ads for every single type of shoe that you have, because they might change every season. They might, you know, you just about get the ad campaign optimized and the shoe style's out again. So this is where dynamic search ads come in, because you don't choose keywords at all for dynamic search ads. You say to Google, I want you to target these pages with relevant traffic. Google looks at your website, looks at the keywords on your website, and shows ads that Google thinks is appropriate. And it's AI driven, and the ads improve over time. It only works if your website is well structured. Don't touch it with a barge pole if you've got a website that you know needs work. Also, not a good thing to try if you sell something really unique. It works well when people are selling branded goods. So say, for example, we've a golf client, they sell the same tailor-made clubs, Callaway clubs as everybody else in the market. Google knows what these things are called. Google can send the right people to the right pages. But if you're selling, you know, Morello cherry concentrate and nobody else is selling that thing and Google doesn't know why you're selling it, it's going to send an awful lot of rubbish to your pages trying to figure it out with dynamic search ads. Actually, whilst I'm on the subject, if you go into Google's ads accounts and you set up their default, they call them smart campaigns, smart search campaigns, but they really should be called dumb campaigns because you have no levers to pull. You'll get something very similar to this, but with even fewer options. If you're not sure what sort of account you've got, then I'm happy to have a look. Shopping ads. So you asked the question about how they work. Do they work on keywords? They don't. So most shopping sites have got their inventory in some kind of shopping backend. So big ones, Magento, Shopify, WooCommerce, you might be using something different. That feeds through into something called the Google Merchant Center, which is like a halfway house for Google approving your products, making sure they're listed in the right formats, making sure the right fields and you know everything's set up correctly. Goes from the Google Merchant Center into Google Ads, and you set up your shopping campaigns in Google Ads. They're tricky to get right in many ways, and then this is the gin company. So from there, Google will say, okay, someone's typed in grapefruit gin into Google. I'm going to go and look in the Merchant Center to see if there's any products which are set up with the words grapefruit and gin that look like they might be the right kind of answer to that person's question. Then I'm going to pull that product through and show it. So that's how shopping ads work. So the quality depends entirely on the content of your Merchant Center feed, and feed optimization is quite a sort of a discipline all in itself. Say, for example, here someone's typed in flavored pink gin. You'll see that there's everything from an art print through to you know, truffles and bath salts along with actual gin, right? Google doesn't really know what the person's looking for here, so they're giving them a selection. And making sure that your products are optimized or your feed is optimized so that you're getting the right sort of clicks is a really interesting, it's an interesting thing to figure out. You have two basic choices actually on shopping campaigns. So there is a smart shopping campaign, which is a hell of a lot better than the smart search campaigns, which you shouldn't touch with a barge pole. Smart shopping is not bad, and it's very easy to set up. Smart shopping, basically, you don't have any control over all of the levers that you normally have in Google Ads to manage your campaign. So you can't target particular audiences, you can't set demographics, you can't choose certain times of day, you can't add negative keywords to screen out the wrong sort of traffic. You literally can do nothing. You just have to trust in Google that they will show the right ads. And smart shopping also shows not just here with these shopping ads, but also display ads and ads right across the Google ecosystem. If you want to try smart shopping ads, generally they work best if you have a product that other people sell. So again, it comes back to kind of the Callaway clubs idea in golf. You know, lots of people sell them, so Google knows what it's dealing with rather than a unique product. That's number one. And you have to give them time. So you literally have to be prepared to throw money at them for, some people say, up to 45 days without touching it, even if you're losing money, to give the algorithms time to learn. And that takes kind of budget and guts, really, to hope that it will turn out good. If they do turn out good, the quid's in, but it's a risk. The other thing with smart shopping is if it goes belly up, you have no levers to pull to fix it. But if you don't know what you're doing on Google Ads, it can work well. The other thing you can do on shopping is you can use what's called a third-party CSS. So when you see shopping ads, you can see here some say by Google and some will say by someone else. So by Product Caster, these ones say. What you're doing, basically, it's a long story, but Google got absolutely caned in Europe legally because they were literally controlling all of the search listings. And the European law decreed that they had to give other people a slice of the pie. So now Google is allowed to take around 50% of the listings for themselves, and the other 50% have to come through third parties. And it basically, what it involves is setting up a completely separate merchant center with a third party. These are called CSSs, or can't even think what it stands for at this precise moment. But so a third party CSS alongside your Google feed. There's an advantage to doing it because one, you can double list, you can show your ads twice, and two, because you're not paying Google commission, you can actually get a bid advantage. It's complex because if everybody's in the game, then you don't get a bid advantage because everybody's bids just come up, so everyone's bidding at the same level. But in theory, you can get a bid advantage. So I'll just throw that in the mix for anyone that's doing shopping and wants to improve margins. Microsoft ads run in exactly the same way. They have shopping ads at the top. They have little search ads down the side. It can be a great way of getting incremental revenue. Clicks can be cheaper. There's far less competition. The people that are advertising on Google aren't even here. We've got one client who's in a really cutthroat market. They have 40 people advertising against them on Google, and there's about 10 on Bing ads. So if you're in a really competitive marketplace, consider Bing. How am I for time? Do I need to stop? Oh, you're muted, Ollie.
Oh, sorry, you're all good.
Oh, all right, okay. Just shout when I need to shut up. So which metrics matter? There's 200 odd data fields in Google Ads, and it can be a little bit like, what the hell am I optimizing for? What should I be looking for? And it is complicated if you want to understand the interplay of each of them because they all interrelate with each other. But the basic question to ask yourself is, are you making money? And it sounds really obvious, but a lot of people aren't optimizing for money. They go, oh, I got loads of clicks from my Google ads. And, you know, Google makes money from clicks. You don't make money from clicks. So there's a whole bunch of metrics that you need to be aware of. So this is an excerpt from one of our client dashboards. We have live data pulls. So this was from February. You know, we can show them how much they've spent, how much revenue came through the last click attribution models. So people that clicked and then bought, revenue divided by spend. So that's return on ad spend. You know, for every £1 they spent, they got £9 back. And then we have assisted revenue, which is where Google Ads played a part in the decision-making journey. You know, they might have clicked on a Google ad at the beginning, then come back direct or via organic or via email or via Facebook ads, whatever. You know, when we take that into account, how much money are they making? How many transactions? What's the average order value? You need to be tracking these things over time. This account we took over in December, so we're very pleased that we're showing clients that we're improving revenue, but you need to be aware of the revenue of the stats that matter. And the maths is actually pretty simple behind the scenes. Say we buy 100 clicks at £1 each. It's going to cost you £100, right? Plus the cost of managing your campaign if you're not doing it yourself. Let's say 1 in 10 people buy something after visiting your website, so you make 10 sales. Now, if you're selling products for £5, you've lost money, right? Before you even start thinking about the cost of the goods sold, you've spent 100 quid and you've got 50 quid back. But if you sell products for £100, then obviously you've made £1,000, you may well be in profit. So what is important in Google Ads is knowing how to optimize for each of the variables you have control over, which are the ones that I've got highlighted there in yellow. How many clicks are you buying? What are you paying for each click? Sometimes it makes sense to pay a lot more per click if they convert at a higher rate. So it's not the case that cheap clicks are good. Cheap clicks can be a complete waste of money. Equally, you might be paying over the odds. The biggest one people need to optimize, and I turn away literally 2 out of 3 people that come to me for ads saying, improve your website before we can work with you. If you can't, if you imagine these numbers, if you only have 1 in 100 people buying from you after visiting your website, you're going to make 100 quid, not 1,000 quid. These numbers really matter, and conversion rate is the biggest one of all. I can send the right people to your website, but I cannot make them buy. So if your website isn't good enough, focus on your website first. Get your conversion rates up. Make sure you know your website can convert before you spend anything on Google Ads. And we won't work with you unless we can see that your website can convert, because there's just no point throwing money at a website that isn't going to work. Don't optimize for the number of impressions. That does my head in. You know, loads of people saw my ads. Unless you're out there just to drive a bit of brand awareness, and that's your strategy. And if you're a big brand, absolutely, Coca-Cola spend fortunes on impressions. But most of us aren't in that boat. You know, we need to feed the top of funnel, but actually what matters is people engaging with our brands. Don't optimize for the number of clicks. Are they rubbish clicks? Are they great clicks? Quality is everything. I would rather spend £100 and get you 10 great clicks at £10 each than I would spend £1,000 and get you 10 great clicks. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? You need to, it's not the number of clicks, it's how good are they. Click-through rate, we've talked about briefly. You might actually want a low click-through rate to attract the right people. And cost per click, you may well find that by bidding more, you know, we've one client, if they buy clicks at £10 each, they're in the right auctions, in the right position on the page to make money. The moment we drop that to £6, £5, £6, they're losing money. So don't optimize for those vanity metrics, if you like. You can buy as many clicks as you like, but if they're junk, makes no odds. So what you really need to optimize, if you're a lead generator, if your business success, like mine, say for example, will depend on form completions, emails and phone calls, you need to optimize for the number of leads and quality of leads. And that requires some offline tracking. What happens when those form completions come in? And of course, all of this relies on having conversion tracking in place. If you're running Google Ads and you don't know what happens when someone's clicked on an ad, you shouldn't be running Google Ads. You need that set up first in Google Analytics. So you'll probably all have a Google Analytics account. It needs to track what happens after someone's landed on your website. If you're in e-commerce, obviously it's return on ad spend. So for every pound spent on ads, how much revenue have you got back? And that's the only thing that really matters on e-commerce. And again, you need your Google Analytics set up to capture that value. You need it's called enhanced e-commerce tracking. Really, really briefly, attribution, bane of everybody's lives, particularly at the moment, because there's a lot of changes going on with Facebook ads in particular, iOS, the Apple platform. People can now opt out of tracking. The way to explain attribution is, if you as a business, you've made 10 grand's worth of sales this month, what percentage of it came from Google ads, what came from Facebook ads, what came from social media, what came from your email marketing? Every business owner wants to understand that. The challenge is, as I put here, nothing works alone. People aren't really straightforward beings who see an ad and buy something straight away. They just don't. And on lead generation, particularly if you're selling a business service, it can take 6 months for people to decide to get in touch with you. By the time they've been through all of their internal procurement processes and thought about things and gone, you know, it can take forever. I always like this analogy. If you go to the pub, right, before you go, you have a G&T, and you go to the pub and it's a big night and you've had 3 glasses of wine, probably shouldn't have done. The next morning you wake up with a hangover. Can you really say it was the second glass of wine that gave me this hangover? It was a G&T. Of course you can't. You've got a headache the next day because you drank all of it. And if you imagine that, you know, someone has clicked on a Google ad or a Facebook ad, they've signed up for email lists, which one got you the customer? You just can't say that. It's all of them. And then 2 final bits of advice. Google has a recommendations slide. Be very cautious. of Google's recommendations. Most of them are there to make Google more money. My team and I have a checklist, should I implement this recommendation or not? And probably 2/3 of them we don't do, or we do cautiously. And Google Ads shouldn't be your own marketing channel. We don't work with anyone that doesn't, that just does Google Ads, because it's a very expensive way of acquiring new customers. You have to be doing content, SEO, something else for Google Ads to work. So that was a whistle-stop tour.
Karen, thank you for that. That was fantastic. Really practical, very honest, and lots of hints and tips for people that are obviously running Google Ads or thinking of considering it. Obviously, it's quite a complex area as well. I love the analogy there about going to the pub. Just to encourage everyone to read Google's research on 0 moments of truth, which says about the 11 different touch points that you need before a customer makes a buying decision. So I'd encourage everyone to go out and read that as well. Before Karen goes, I'd love to open up the floor to some questions. Who's got a question for Karen?
I have a question. Karen, I thank you for that. That was really helpful and eye-opening. There's lots of things we did wrong with our last campaign. But my question specifically is around, I think it's Google Shopping, because what our challenge with Google Shopping is a good number of our products didn't actually publish to Google to enable us to do Google Shopping, and therefore we had to switch to search ads, which were fine, but you've highlighted in your presentation why that's challenging, and what we'd really like to do is to explore Google Shopping. Do you know why products don't publish to Google, or if there's a way around that? Like, I feel like if I've been chasing them down for months now.
Google disapprovals are the bane of our agency life. They at the moment it's particularly bad because their support team's based in India nowadays. Literally 5 years ago, I had a dedicated account manager who was based in the UK. And now you have to be spending something like 10 million a month, I think, to get an account manager. It might even be upwards of that now. So, and in India at the moment, the poor souls are going through absolute hell with COVID. So stuff gets disapproved for no reason, and it stays that way. The key thing is to look at the disapproval reason. There's tons of documentation online. You can get disapproved for the most random things. We work with a sixth form college in London who is called St. Francis Xavier. It's just the name of the college, right? And their ads were disapproved for religious content. They do A-levels, and GCSE, it's just nothing to do with religion whatsoever, just based on the fact that they had a saint's name, and it took 3 weeks to get that cleared. So look at the disapproval reasons. Some things are non-negotiable. So we have a client who does organic skincare for various skin conditions, rosacea, psoriasis, that sort of thing. When their products are reviewed, the reviews automatically pop through onto their website from Trustpilot. And if someone says, this acne product is better than Roaccutane, is that how you pronounce it? Roaccutane, which is a branded medical, not over the counter, it's a prescribed medicine, the whole campaign is disapproved because you've used a banned medical term. Those non-negotiable, literally, they've had to add drug names to their reviews tool as swear words so that they're starred out to try and get that resolved. So some things, no point arguing, you'll never get them through. Other things, it's just a case of persistence. You have just got to be on it, talking to them over and over and over again until someone listens. And it's very, very frustrating.
I will keep chasing them down then.
Yeah. If you can't even get stuff into the merchant centre approved, then obviously it's game over with running shopping ads. There are often creative ways around. If you can restructure the way you describe your products, figure out what's wrong, what's triggering, because all of these bans, they're driven by algorithms, they're not people.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
You're welcome.
Hi, I had a question. So we started off Google Ads, as I said, sort of back September, October time.
Yeah.
From just going through the presentation, I think the parameters were too broad. We worked with a marketing company who were really annoyed because we spent so much money. I think they did a really crappy job. Well, if Google has like this sort of memory and a quality score, will we almost need to try and dilute our previous parameters in order to get to the quality that we now know we need to be targeting? You know, is there a bit of time we'll need to now plan in for Google to, I guess, update itself to the quality we want?
Yeah, so if you've got an existing account and it has done nothing for you, I would bin it and start again. The other bonus being that if you work with an agency, you get £120 worth of free clicks when you set up a new account, so that's all good. But yeah, you definitely don't want to build on poor quality scores, because it takes a long time to undo that machine learning. And you could set up new campaigns within the account, but you know, if there's nothing worth keeping, then don't. The flip side to that is if you have an account that is working, even if, I mean, we inherit accounts which are working purely because they've been around so long that the algorithms have learned eventually, but the structure is appalling. You know, it's learned by making so many mistakes that it's now working. You can't then ditch that because you're starting from scratch. And generally, every time you move something about in a Google Ads account, you've got a 6-week learning. It's a 45-day learning period, again, on the algorithms. I didn't mention bidding at all. Don't use manual bidding in this day and age. You can't change bids as often as an algorithm unless you're on there every 5 seconds throughout the day. So, but knowing which bid strategies to use is the skill. And there's some things around that which I can help with if anyone's got questions.
That's cool. And so I'll be cheeky. My second question was just, I guess, on, so our product, we can target the end users, the consumers, and then salons or booking platforms and businesses as well. So do you see any, I guess, preference over B2C versus B2B using Google, or is it equally as good for both?
It can be as good for both. You just have to be very clear on the strategy and how much you can afford to acquire a new customer. So B2C is apps, right, that you do. I didn't talk about app ads at all, but that's another whole category of Google Ads. App marketing, you have to know it's hugely competitive on the Google Play Store, and you have to know that you can acquire a consumer for and actually make money based on how much you're actually going to be able to sell. On the other hand, targeting the B2B side of things, you've probably got a much smaller pool of people. That would probably be a search campaign that needs to be highly keyword targeted. So you would need 2 completely different strategies in completely different campaigns or groups of campaign, so that you are managing the return on those separately. It wouldn't be a one size fits all at all.
Okay, no, that's useful. Thank you. Cool.
Any other questions from the floor? Someone else must have a question. Karen?
I do have another question if no one else has a question. Karen, you mentioned Microsoft Ads. So is that Bing and Ecosia?
Yeah. There's a bunch of smaller search engines which run off the Bing platform. Ecosia.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm asking about that because we recently saw that we were getting a fair bit of traffic from there, so we were looking into maybe running some campaigns, and then we looked at the setup, and it's a completely different situation to Google, and might I say more straightforward, or maybe you're about to tell me, oh no, there's all sorts of pitfalls in there, but it looks like it was pretty straightforward to use.
Bing copies whatever Google does. Essentially, it's a mirror of the Google Ads platform, but generally 3 months behind. You can import your Google campaigns into Bing if they're working. The thing about Bing is to think about demographics. So it tends to be good for B2B It tends to be good for slightly older demographics, and it tends to be good for the technically clueless. So if you are, if you get a new laptop, it will have Windows 10, if it's not a Mac, if it's a Windows laptop, it will have Microsoft installed. Bing will be the default browser. You will never think to change it. That tends to be older people, and everybody else downloads Google and wipes it, as their default, sets it as their default browser. So Bing works incredibly well for those older and clueless audiences. It also works really well for people who are stuck in offices and their IT department has just mandated that everybody uses the Microsoft platform. So it can work well for, selling software and stuff, and business stuff. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But it's worth just checking what kind of search volumes there are in Bing. Are your competitors on there? Yeah, it's not less complicated than Google. If anything, Google's a lot smarter. Bing's AI is great. So you have to do a lot more manual management of Bing campaigns.
I knew there was something hidden in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Vanessa. I think that's about it for time. Karen, just want to say again a massive thank you for all of your time and energy and insights. It's been invaluable. Karen is kindly going to send over the slides, so I will ping that to everyone afterwards. And that, I assume Karen's got your contact details in?
Yeah, I'll stick them on there. If anyone's got questions, then do just ping me an email. It's just Karen at Ethos Metrics. Bit of a mouthful, but the metrics, because we're all about the numbers and the analytics.